I think it's fair to say, in my 35 years of involvement in SME finance, there really has never been a more interesting and exciting time for this market sector. The amount of innovation that's gone on, particularly in the last 10 years, is quite staggering. I think the best analogy is we've moved from monochrome to colour. 10 years ago plus, and in fact for the preceding 40 or 50 years, there was essentially 4 or 5 main players. They were all big banks, and your options were the bank or possibly a bit of factoring, which was regarded as a bit smelly and a bit last resort, and that was pretty much it. So if the bank said no, you really had nowhere to go. Well, if you take it that say 12 years ago there was probably, between the banks and the invoice finance providers, maybe 10 product providers of any significant volume, we have at least 130 now players in the marketplace, and a great deal more actual individual products available to SME owners in order to provide finance for their business. It's my opinion that with that sort of great opportunity also comes risk, and making sense of a bewildering array of possible solution providers is no easy task. Recent research has shown, across a survey of 2,000 business owners, which are a significant enough number to make sense, that 49% of those SME owners would consider using an alternative or non-bank finance provider to solve their business finance requirements, which is interesting. We have to be careful around the wording here. Would consider is quite a long way from the actual doing of it. If 49% of business owners say they would consider using a non-bank funder, my immediate reaction to that is not, yay, that's all good news. It's qualified good news. I would have to ask myself, why would the 51% not consider at all using an alternative to a bank? Is there a reputational issue here? Is there some kind of strangeness, or possibly simply not being able to understand and navigate such a complex marketplace? Clearly, sustainability is going to revolve around some very, very important key market attributes. The first is that we simply cannot ignore the importance of technology. One of the reasons why business owners are attracted to many of the alternative products is not cost. In many cases, alternative products are actually a bit more expensive. It is simply that their technology allows them to access the finance they need in incredibly short spaces of time. If you take the average negotiated overdraft at around about 3 months, and some of these funding providers can have funds in your bank in 3 hours. You can't do that without technology. Secondly, I think it's really important for the alternative funding providers themselves to really look after their own shop. The temptation to go for market share above everything else hovers, and it's really important to be sensible about this. Businesses and lending to business carries risk. Managing that risk and having robust underwriting procedures and not falling off a cliff when a recession hits is exceptionally important. Thirdly, frankly, it's really confusing. 130 product providers with a bewildering array of products. I'm in this marketplace and I don't understand all of them. I'm certainly not aware of all of them. So establishing which provider and which product is the most suitable for you, or even suitable for you, is incredibly difficult. And therefore, in parallel to the growth of all the providers, quite sensibly and absolutely necessarily, aggregator platforms have grown up, which allow the business owner to quickly, safely, confidentially navigate that marketplace and identify and satisfy themselves that there is a product and a provider out there that suits their requirement, and that provider would be prepared to transact business with them. That is a vital component of the alternative funding marketplace, because frankly, without that kind of navigational tool, it doesn't make sense. I think we have to understand that 49% is a great sign of progress. If that is to be sustainable, the one thing that has to come above everything else is customer outcomes. Good customer outcomes will sustain that growth. Poor customer outcomes will not.